I'm Jordan. I'm the CEO and founder of Hark. We are an energy analytics and industrial IoT company. At the start of 2023, we were acquired by one of the leading smart energy technology companies in the world, SolarEdge. I suppose my outlook on the way this is going is predominantly driving the energy transition. I suppose green technology and renewable technology do coincide. However, I do think that there's a significant uptake in innovation in the renewable space that is required for distributed generation assets and battery storage and being able to control buildings and assets as efficiently as possible. I suppose some upcoming innovation that we're really excited to be working on as part of maybe a global brand is the ability to use your renewable assets, your on-site generation, to really not just drive down carbon output, but also really maximize the potential of your own energy generation. So maximizing self-consumption. There's a huge need for this type of technology, not just from Hark and across the wider portfolio of businesses that we're part of now, but across the globe. So everything from using energy storage, cars, so EV, effectively electric vehicles as potential storage, and optimizing the charging profiles of those cars when the grid needs support. These are all the kinds of things that we're seeing over the next couple of years as probably going to be key drivers to support the green agenda. Fundamentally though, it does come down to cost as well. So it's not just all about being green, it's also being responsible in how you invest capital and financially make these things sustainable for businesses and people who are using this technology. I suppose that's kind of what we're up to at the moment. So I suppose there's multiple levers that drive this kind of change that's required. A huge amount of it is driven by policy, actually. So if you look in the US now, you've got the IRA, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, which has a huge amount of subsidies for deploying generation, like PV inverters, energy, that kind of stuff. And that's a over $300 billion bill. And I suppose the point of that, for example, is yes, it needs to drive the renewable transition and support climate change agreements and all the things that surround making sure that we reduce the global carbon emissions and global carbon output. But it's also designed to support jobs and like on US soil, for example, and making sure that the renewable energy transition, the green energy transition, whatever you want to call it, isn't just sustainable for the planet, but it's also sustainable for the economy as well. So it's about creating jobs, for example, in those spaces. And there needs to be, a fivefold uptake in people moving into the renewable space over the next 10, 15 years to actually support that transition, because it's all well and good saying you're going to do it and having maybe the capability, but you need people to be able to ship the stuff, install the stuff, operate the stuff, and that requires upskilling in various different parts of the supply chain. The same is said for the EU as well. So the EU obviously are kind of following suit with a similar act to again drive, I suppose, a similar set of dynamics as to what the US IRA is trying to do too. So in this case, policy is actually the primary driver in the space that we're in. It's not the only driver, like the energy crisis, obviously over the last 18 months has been a significant driver because it creates opportunity for people to reduce the cost of energy and things like payback periods for deploying renewable technology, whether it's wind and solar, specifically wind and solar. Those price points have come down, but also the business cases now make more sense than they ever have done. That's not just driven by the energy crisis though, it's also driven by the fact that the more renewables we have, the more need for technology to help balance out the fact that those renewables are intermittent as well. And that's the same as said globally. It's not just in Europe and the US. I think the other side of this is that while policy is it has a huge impact in terms of how it affects the way these things ultimately unfold, the other side of it is people and how companies can also create new business models around these opportunities too. So it's a mixture of policy, so government, it's a mixture of people and behaviors that surround the wider economy. It's also a mixture, well, within that mix is how companies and innovative new commercial models and business models can fundamentally like interoperate and allow those technologies to reach the wider masses, because it's through companies, whether it's companies that make inverters or batteries to the installers. Fundamentally, they're the people that are going to get, I suppose, drive these changes, because they're the bottleneck, or rather the unlocker, however you want to look at it. So yeah, companies and innovative business models, that's really a huge requirement for that transition too.